This is No Break Next Week. I'm Brett.
I'm Joel.
And today we are talking about a very controversial theory.
Quite controversial indeed.
So the controversial theory we are going to talk about is timepiece.
Timepiece. Said time travel and now I'm done. I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
Not a lot of people are, but you got to give it the time of day because, like, there's actually a lot of like really interesting things that like come up in the story of One Piece.
I'm
that
100% convinced. I'm 100% convinced that this is.
So the first moment for me that did it was when we were going week to week in the manga and Luffy dies and he turns Gear 5th for the first time.
For sure.
And Zunisha says, there's no mistake about it. This is the drums of liberation. Yeah. This is Joy Boy. So that was the first moment. And I started to look into this theory a little more deeper. Mm-hmm. And I started finding like a lot of stuff that really backs it up. And a lot of people had these theories before, but I just feel like they didn't get all the way there. They didn't bring like really important
It's like
details.
Everybody like comes so close. I mean, shout out to our boy O'Hara. I saw he posted a little bit something about this where it's like, you know, Luffy and Joy Boy are the same person. It's not a reincarnation thing.
And in the video, O'Hara says, a fan submitted it. And he actually came back to my room. He's like, hey, did you submit this to O'Hara? Because we had been talking about it for so long.
Yeah, for sure. Even in that video, other videos have come out. I've seen some people starting to talk about it. It's just like, it's still a joke theory, you know? Like people are like, oh, we're not taking this seriously, time travel. Everybody hates time travel. Like we get it. I think the most important thing is like it's not just that there's a lot of evidence that's like, oh, this could be a thing. It's that there is almost nothing that proves that this is not a thing. And there's a lot of theories in One Piece where it's like, oh, I'm looking at this. It's easy to debunk because you have so much fucking information.
Yes.
So really what I try to go for is like, what disproves this? And for this one, it's just...
There's not a lot there. You would think there is a lot there. There's not. All right, so first off, let's talk about the obvious. Time travel exists already in One Piece.
100%.
It is there.
I would say Toki's definitely the big one. I mean, like...
Because she literally travels through time. It's literally not even like a gray area. It's black and white. She travels from the Void Century to Wano.
She's coming to Wano from the past. Oda doesn't just put shit in this manga for no reason.
Exactly.
Why would you introduce time travel and
into
not
the
have
story
it be...
Exactly. At this point in the manga, Vegapunk has stated that he believes that devil fruits are made from the desires of human beings.
For sure.
You have to ask the question, it's like, why would people desire to go forward in time and not back?
Yeah, so
like,
now...
I feel like more people would desire to go back in time.
100%. So now we're at the options, we're at the...
How could that happen?
Yeah, like, how could that happen? Even just on this, it's like, all right, so if you want to talk about Toki and her devil fruit, which is like the purest, like, most tangible... Concrete version of, like, time travel in One Piece. It exists for a reason. I think it's really interesting that Oda specifically said she can only travel forward in time. Why would you even say that unless you were trying to get people away from the whole idea? But there's two other things. First off, we all know that like whatever your devil fruit power is, its awakening is its truest form. If it's not awakened, it's not going to be the full, like the full-fledged version of it. For instance, like Nika is not a rubber god. You know what I mean? But rubber is a property of having the Nika fruit. From all the examples of awakened devil fruits we've seen, including Dofi and including Katakuri, and you can even go so far as to assume that Akainu and Aokiji's fruits were awakened. It no longer affects the user, but it affects the environment around them. Now, let's say you're moving forward in time. That's your power. That's your unawakened power. You could assume
your awakened power would obviously be to just move the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, I want to bring up like the desire of people creating devil fruits again, because I don't understand how the masses would wish for to go forward in time and not back.
Yeah.
So one of two things is going to happen. It's either A, the awakened fruit that Toki uses is going to be able to go back in time.
Yeah, it can at that point do whatever it wants.
Or B, there is a separate devil fruit that goes back in time.
Both of those options.
Why would people desire to go forward in time and not in back? That
we also have so many examples of like devil fruits that are a certain type but a different model. You know what I mean? So we have like like I think Kaido's is like a fish fruit, but it's like the model of like it's like the Gyarados shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like it could literally be the Toki no Mi reverse.
Yeah.
Model reverse.
Yeah, for sure.
Toki no Mi model reverse could just go back in time instead of forward.
And even like what I was saying before is even if you want to just believe that it can only move forward and it's only that fruit that's a time travel fruit, at the end of the day, if you're awakened and it's affecting your environment, if you move your environment forward in time, what is that doing with you?
Exactly, sending it back. So we know that time travel exists. We know that it's possible.
It exists for a reason.
It exists for a reason. So let's go into some of the more just weird coincidences and facts about the time travel.
Let's do it.
This is one of the biggest proponents of my time travel theory that actually got me interested in it in the first place. I just think that there are so many coincidences. I feel like Oda wouldn't put a fate thing, and there's like a lot of fate things in here. So, for instance, there's like an 800-year exact apart that just seems to just happen. So, you know, we have Neptune saying that a Poseidon is born every 800 years, and he confirms that Shirahoshi is Poseidon. And there is a recreation of Joy Boy exactly at the same time of Poseidon.
I mean, when you get into the poneglyphs, which we'll get into more, it's like, how many other things happen in the 800 years?
We still got, like Zunisha says Joy Boy is back, which you could take as a thing as fate. And then we have even Roger saying that when he gets to the One Piece that they're too early. Yeah. It's almost like they knew they were 20 years too early for the 800-year time loop.
Now we're getting into it.
We have Odin saying that in 20 years... the borders of Wano will be opened.
For sure.
And strong pirates will come through and open the borders of Wano.
How did you know
And we also have Toki that sends the Akazaya 9 exactly 20 years into the future, landing on that 800-year mark. There's so many coincidences.
How did she know that?
How did you know that? How are all these things lining up? Oda's such a good writer. We all know that Oda's such a good writer that if he just says, oh yeah, it's fated, it just seems so cheesy.
Yeah, I don't think that's really something Oda would do. And especially making his main character someone that is so about freedom. I mean, this is one of the main reasons why I was like not with you on the time travel vibe.
Yeah.
Because my argument was, oh, if it's just like you're stuck in a loop or this has to happen, then that's completely opposite to what Luffy is all about.
And what One Piece is all about.
And what One Piece is all about. But I feel like if you're looking at it, you know, when Gear 5th dropped and it was like, oh, it's Joy Boy, like, oh, we're hard in the reincarnation vibe, guys. Like, I feel like that would be exponentially worse. And
and you want to know another coincidence? We've seen one shot of Joy Boy, and he looks exactly like a grown-up Luffy.
He looks a lot like a fucking grown-up Luffy.
Wouldn't it be crazy that Joy Boy, like, they look the same? Like, it's not only that it's being reincarnated, but they have the same body type. They're the same
face
person.
Being covered. He's a little older.
Joy Boy has the straw hat. Right? And we knew that Emu looks at a frozen straw hat while holding Luffy's picture.
For sure.
You know, you have to ask yourself this question. I would love to anyone comment down below. Any other thing. Besides preservation, why would you freeze a straw hat? And we now know that Luffy can turn into a giant from Gear 5th.
Yeah, his clothes change,
and
too. That's the important
we also
part.
know that devil fruits can be cloned to some extent. They may not be 100%, but they can be cloned and replicated.
Yeah, I believe it's like the Logias are the hardest to do.
Yeah, zone types are the easiest, and the Hito Madonika is a zone.
Yeah.
It's now confirmed that it's a mythical zone and not a paramecia that we originally thought. So all I'm saying is, like, if you were Emu and you knew that devil fruits could be cloned, not even Emu, just the celestial dragons and the world government in general. If you knew that devil fruits could be cloned, why wouldn't you want to clone the most powerful model?
It's one thing when you see like Luffy versus Kaido, and then he does the whole like fucking gigantification thing, which is so many people are trying to replicate gigantification. I think I was watching, I don't even remember who it is exactly, but someone was talking about a theory where like every single thing that it seems like the celestial dragons or the world government is trying to replicate through science has to do with the Nika Nika fruit. Once Luffy does the whole gigantification thing against Kaido and he like gets the whole stomp going, his clothes are also that large.
Yes, and so the straw hat would also be that big.
Oh shit, this has some kind of Nika power in it, you know what I mean? This has some kind of like...
So you can pull from it, study it, replicate it.
But then not only that, we've seen from the most previous, well at this time, one of the most previous chapters, one of my favorite panels of all time, when Luffy pulls out the fucking shades from his hair, that like...
Yeah.
Creation through imagination is absolutely possible.
I think that's an underrated frame as well. Because you know we're at this point we're still trying to figure out what the Nika Nika fruit can do, what all his powers are. Because we know he's got Toon Force, that's okay. But then he literally
they don't like you calling it Toon Force online.
Creates an object. I don't give a shit. I'm calling it Toon Force. What else is it?
Yeah, that's what it is. We're Tex Avery and hard as fuck right now. Let's go.
But yeah, he literally creates an object out of nothing. Just to be cool, just to style.
Just to fucking flex on him. Like,
we have very few scenes with Emu, and one of them is a giant straw hat. But we also have the scene where we have the wanted posters cut up of Luffy and Blackbeard, and we have a dagger through Shiroshi. We know that Shiroshi has to play a part in this time travel theory because she's Poseidon, and there was a Poseidon exactly 800 years ago and now. Okay, so let's say Shiroshi has to go back in time with Luffy, just humor us. Just assume that that's true. For some reason, Shiroshi has to come back with Luffy.
That completes her arc. She's brave now. Finally.
She's brave now, and brave for Luffy, and she's doing a thing, right? And let's say Luffy destroys the home of the Celestial Dragons on top of the Red Line. It crashes and destroys Fishman Island.
It's right under it.
Fulfills Charlie's prophecy of Luffy destroying the Fishman Island, but also
the apology.
The apology poneglyph.
On the poneglyph, 100%.
Yes. We know that there is an apology poneglyph from Joy Boy on Fishman Island to the future princess.
I honestly hope it's just that and not something so dark as like she gets killed in the Void Century or something.
She's probably gonna die.
I don't want to see her die. I know she's a coward. I don't want to see her die.
But she'll probably do it bravely, fulfilling her arc and like really making it.
Yeah, 100%.
But also, you know, that makes that apology poneglyph not an apology to the future princess, but an apology to Shiroshi. Like and Luffy apologizes for destroying Fishman Island and probably Shiroshi dying in the process. And Joy Boy, a.k.a. Luffy, because he time traveled back and he is Joy Boy, is just apologizing to Shiroshi.
Well, that poneglyph will be there forever.
Yeah.
Like, we're reading it now in the present time.
The next thing we got to talk about is the very few things we know about when Roger found the One Piece and how it all makes sense into this time travel theory.
I think this is honestly one of my favorite parts.
Let's just talk about what we know, and then we'll go down and break it down about how it could play into the time travel theory. So here's what we know about the scene of Roger finding the One Piece. So first off, we know that Roger laughed. His whole crew
busted out
because of how funny, how ridiculous the One Piece actually is. Yep. We know that for a fact. He says he wished he could have met Joy Boy. He says, Joy Boy.
How does he know about that?
I wish I could have met you.
How does he know about that?
He said, we came too early.
How does he know about that?
We came too early, guys.
What?
There is information from the Void Century of what actually happened. He names it. He names the final island.
Oh, I love it.
Laugh Tale.
Oh, say it again.
Interesting. Laugh Tale. He names it Laugh Tale after finding the One Piece. And the final piece of information is he started the Great Pirate Era shortly after. Okay, so let's take all these pieces.
Where do we want to start with this? Because there are so many fucking things I want to talk about.
Well, we're not the first person to come up with this specific theory.
That's true.
But we're putting it in the context. We're putting it in the context of the theory.
Of
the most meta thing that Oda could ever do is the One Piece.
What is it?
One Piece.
Yo.
It is the story of One Piece. It is literally the historical events wrote down in text of everything that happened to the Void Century up until 20 years in the future at that point.
I mean, the more I think about it, that is truly the only thing that could possibly make sense. And like, you know, the time travel aspect is like an entirely different like concept of it.
Yes.
But like, we know that Oda, for a fact, is not afraid of getting meta as hell. Like,
let's talk about just being meta in general and Oda's writing style.
The parallels between both
Gear 5 and time travel would be meta as hell, because like when Gear 5 came out, everyone's asking like, oh, what's Gear 5? And we had all the fan art animations looking like Super Saiyan 4 Goku or some shit. Like, no, and then when it finally comes out, it's like, oh no, Luffy is a cartoon. He has been this whole time.
He's been vibing this whole time.
He's been this whole time. And like, what is the number one reason people don't get into One Piece besides the length? It's because it's so cartoony and just like goofy, and how meta, how fuck you of Oda
that's classic.
To be like, no, he is a cartoon. And in the same way, wouldn't it be so meta to be like, what is the One Piece? Oh, it's One Piece. It's One Piece. It's a theory of One Piece.
And
like,
another thing I want to say that like also, in my opinion, like confirms this, or not confirms, but like it makes it a more viable like possibility. Oda said in a recent SBS before the final arc started, once Wano was done, not the final arc, final saga, he goes, yo, this is the One Piece. This is One Piece. If you haven't started reading, if you haven't caught up or anything, don't worry about it. Just start here right now.
You can start now.
Just start here right now.
Yeah. He said that in an SBS, by the way.
He literally said this. And here's the thing.
Fans of One Piece have to be like, no, you're missing all the lore. You're missing all the things.
Yep.
But if it's a time travel ending.
Exactly. So like,
you can start from here.
You start from here. There's enough info dumps to let you know what's going on. You see it happen. And by the time you get through all this hype shit, you're just like, of course I'm going to watch it again. Or of course I'm going to start from the beginning.
Go back to the beginning.
And it's not only that, but canonically accurate to like how the story works if it is a time travel thing.
Exactly. All right, so if the One Piece is in fact the history of One Piece. That's why Roger named it Laugh Tale.
Yeah.
Because he's talking about the story of Joy Boy, a.k.a. Luffy, the warrior of liberation who brings laughter and smiles to everyone's faces.
I mean, he literally said, I wish I was around to meet you. We came too early. Like, all this stuff. It's just...
Now, let's get into why he said he came too early. So, we now know, assumedly, right now in the manga, that Vegapunk thinks that devil fruits are created based on what people desire in the world.
Here we go.
Right? What I think might have happened is Luffy, aka Joy Boy, might have left a message for Roger saying, if you want true freedom, you need to create a fruit that is true freedom, which means you need to make people believe in true freedom.
So what does he do?
So what does he do?
He starts
the Great Pirate Era because pirates are the embodiment of true freedom. The Nika Nika fruit wouldn't have been created unless the world at whole and the population of the world at whole desired true freedom, because the Hito Hito no Mi is true freedom. The Gorosei said that. It's pretty much like anything Luffy can think up, he can do right now.
The most ridiculous fruit.
The most ridiculous fruit ever. It's the embodiment of freedom. You know? And so I think Luffy just left a message for Roger saying, hey, you need to make people believe in freedom for your dream to come true. And Roger knew that.
I'm not even sure if he left a message. I just think the entire thing, like everything that happened was just there.
You know?
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, I'm doing this, I guess. Like, let's go. I'm already here.
I think at least the knowledge of devil fruits being created because of people's desires there. And I think Roger created the Great Pirate Era as a start so that the Hito Hito no Mi Madonika was born into existence.
If you read the fucking Laugh Tale, it's probably already there too. Like it's already
exactly. Yeah. So this also explains why Odin knew that a new generation of pirates would come flooding into Wano and open the borders of Wano in exactly 20 years.
Exactly.
Probably why he tell Toki.
Or did Toki tell him?
Either way. It's
everybody
very convenient.
knew. Everybody knows something.
Even Roger was going to start the Great Pirate Era.
Opening up fucking Odin's journal. Being like,
yes.
Oh, I guess I can't lie now. What's that mean, mama?
Let's get into the next part of this theory, which bundles in another theory, a very popular theory, one of my favorite theories, actually, which, whether the time travel theory is true or not, I think this is going to come to fruition in some way or another. It is the theory that the One Piece is also the creation of the All Blue.
Oh, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. So, what is the All Blue? Let's talk about what the All Blue is.
I mean, so for a long time now, it's just been like, why would you need Poseidon's power? Why would Poseidon be an ancient weapon? Oh, because you can control the Sea Kings,
which control the Calm Belt.
So Calm Belt's fucked. Like, we don't have anything to do with that anymore. We're good to go.
If Poseidon dissolves the Calm Belt of the Sea Kings, and you can finally cross the Calm Belt freely, then there's only one other thing really blocking it, which is the red line.
Yeah. Which is, where Marie Draw sits, where Laboon was knocking on Reverse Mountain.
Yes.
Like the intersection of the red line.
Yes.
It's just like,
and
we know the All Blue, first of all.
So the All Blue, Sanji describes as a sea where all fish swim from all four oceans. So we know that the oceans have to connect somewhere, but I feel like it could be created as well, by just destroying the Calm Belt and Reverse Mountain. And
there's a lot of theories that go into how like the red line and just like honestly the world of One Piece in general just doesn't seem, its geography does not seem like natural. You know what I mean?
Because there's one line going across the center of the earth. It's almost like it was created.
We've got like Marie Draw, Fishman Island, like right at the entrance and like right on the red line. There's all those things. I mean, if you if you have the power to stop the Calm Belt and you get rid of
so
the red
you need the power of Poseidon.
You need the power of Poseidon.
So Shirahoshi.
And then you've got, if you get rid of the red line,
you
do that.
Well, also we have to know that Marija is the home of celestial dragons, which obviously is going to be an antagonist of some sorts in this.
100%.
So it would want to be destroyed. So thematically and the story base, that would be great if that would destroy, and that would also destroy Fishman Island, which fulfills Charlie's prophecy.
And then the apology as well.
The only other point you would need to destroy is Reverse Mountain.
Yeah.
So if you destroy Reverse Mountain...
if you destroy the red line, Reverse Mountain's also done. It's part of that entire structure. It's almost like a long continent going around the entire planet. Yeah. It's like a line.
And that also fulfills Sanji's arc. Finding the All Blue, or the creation of the All Blue. Brooks' arc, because he gets... Laboon can now travel 100%. With the Straw Hats wherever they go. There's no barriers.
Nami's arc,
because she can finally make a map of the whole world. freely without like needing to go on a line and just repeat itself or whatever. It fulfills so many arcs.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, Luffy as well, because then he has the freedom to travel anywhere he wants. Everybody does.
Well, that's what Oda said in an SBS. He said that the One Piece is I'm going to use exactly his quotes because I don't want to, assume anything else. Mm-hmm. But he said it is a real physical treasure. It is a physical object. It is a physical thing. And he said, 2, it is very much a reward for the Straw Hats for completing their journey. And we know that Luffy doesn't care about a lot of shit. He likes to eat food, and we've seen that he cares about money, but not to an extent that it really is like game changing for him. Sure. So it's like, what could be a gift, a final win for the Straw Hats? And Luffy, what does he love? He loves adventure. He doesn't want to go on a boring adventure. He's quoted that many times. What would be more of a prize for the Straw Hats than to clear the land of all barriers and be able to go anywhere they want, whenever they want, and go on maximum adventure? And also, the final thing that, like, I put my whole heart in this. Not a lot of people bring this up when talking about the all blue theory, and I think it's overlooked a lot, is what Roger says in the very beginning of the whole show as he's about to be executed. Because what he says is, you want my treasure? Go find it. Everything the world has to offer is there. And if the One Piece is the creation of the all blue, then it's not to be a metaphor. It's to be taken quite literally. Everything the world has to offer, the world is now open.
But how confusing are we getting right now? Because earlier we just said that the One Piece is the story of One Piece.
Yeah, and it fits into that time travel theory as well.
It leads
into that. I think like Roger knows that the All Blue has to be created, and that's like part of the One Piece. But also the One Piece is the story of One Piece. So like you need to create the All Blue for true freedom.
Yeah.
And also the world, everything the world has to offer is there. It's literally the whole entire story, the Void Century, the story of everything that happened in between and where it's leading up to and where it's going. The whole entire story is there. The whole world, everything the world has to offer is there. Okay, we're going to move on to the next part. And this part, you kind of just have to know to get to some of the later stages. So let's talk about the secret dream of both Roger and Luffy.
Oh, man, that fucking Yamato scene in episode, what is it?
2015.
Yep. Oh, man.
Where he's talking to Ace. Let's talk about the things we know. First off, we know from both Ace Sabo and Whitebeard and Odin that it is a childish dream. Mm-hmm. It is a very childish dream. We know that for a fact. We know that they laugh, and most of the Straw Hats laugh as well. And some ask if they're serious, and Sanji even says to Chopper, hey,
can you check his head?
Can you check his head? When Luffy says his true dream. These are the reactions of, the Straw Hats when Luffy says his true dream.
I'm so glad we got that. We're like right when we did. Like all the Straw Hats reactions.
Because then it's confirmed that the Straw Hats didn't know yet either.
That's what makes me feel like this is confirming that this is the final crew. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if we're going to pick anybody else up permanently because like this is like, that was a moment.
The other thing we know is that Jinbei says becoming the Pirate King would be the first step to making that dream come true.
Actually.
Based off all the reactions, because that's really the only thing we have to go off of, is just based off the reactions of the crew members of both Roger and Luffy.
For sure. I was so glad that we got that too. Honestly.
Yeah. So one of the things that is also a pretty popular theory now that just came into fruition is Luffy and Roger's dream is they want everyone in the world to be pirates.
Oh, yes, I have heard this. And honestly, I'm about it. I'm
because I think what that truly means is they know that the term of pirate means true freedom.
Truly freedom.
They want everyone to be truly free, and they just say it in that way because they're childish, because they want everyone in the world to be pirates. Because that fulfills everything. That's a childish dream.
Yeah, in the world that they live in, it's like that is true freedom. Yes. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Being a pirate is the definition of being a true freedom, and Luffy has brought this up in many times, specifically when
he thinks that's what being the Pirate King means.
Yes, because he brought that up with Rayleigh when Usopp said, "Hey, what's the One Piece?" Rayleigh says, "Do you think you could rule the seas?" And Luffy says, "I don't want to rule anything. The freest man on the sea is what the Pirate King is," and he embodies that on multiple.
Didn't Rayleigh even say like, "Oh, this is the same shit Roger said too"?
Yeah. Well, Roger's image flashed.
Wait, it's all there.
As Luffy said that, they have the same.
That's definitely it.
Yeah, they have the same dream.
Heard.
So knowing that Roger has the same dream as Luffy, and Roger knows the story of One Piece, in its entirety in its text. When he died, his crew that went to Laugh Tale with him probably wanted to fulfill their captain's dying wish.
For sure.
So I feel like some of the members of Roger's crew were positioned in strategic points to help the eventual Joy Boy because they knew he was 100%. Coming. So I think Crocus at the beginning of the Grand Line and Rayleigh at the middle of the Red Line, Sabaody,
I mean, so you have
they're positioned there to help him.
You've got like Crocus who pulls up. He's literally at Reverse Mountain. That's the entrance to the Grand Line. He's the first one to give them a log post and explain to them. Like, is he just checking everybody? Or like,
yeah, he doesn't give everyone a log post. There's no shot he doesn't give every fire group a log post.
I mean, the Straw Hat would be a dead giveaway in some situations. So you also have Rayleigh. In order to get to the New World, in order to get to Fishman Island, he goes through everybody.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Exactly. And he's very knowledgeable, by the way, with Shockey.
For sure.
Like, they are both very information gatherers.
I mean, and there's a lot of moments, especially like, the infamous punching the shit out of the Celestial Dragon scene. Rayleigh's there. He's chilling. He's looking around. He's also like he chose to train Luffy for 2 years.
He saved Zoro from Kizaru. Yeah. Kizaru was about to kill Zoro. A little teeny tiny moment, but he also saw the Straw Hats off to Fishman Island just to make sure. He says, "Hey, I was just coming to check to make sure everything was okay, but it seems you got it." So why would the right hand of the Pirate King come to just make sure some random pirate group is okay?
There's also the scene. There's also the scene, the infamous scene where Rayleigh is like, "Yeah, we went to Laugh Tale. We figured it out. You want to know what the truth is?" And Luffy freaks out when Usopp is like, "Oh yeah, blah, 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 tell us."
And Luffy says, "I won't go on a boring adventure." He's like, "I'd rather die."
Exactly.
Than figure out what the One Piece is.
He sees the whole thing where it's like, "Oh, this reminds me of Roger." And he says some other cryptic things like, "I could tell you everything right now, but it wouldn't make a difference. It'll probably be different for you anyway."
Yeah.
And then what's your quote, Brad?
So I watch a lot of reaction videos to One Piece scenes, and while I was watching a reaction video to the Katakuri fight, right before Luffy lands the final blow on Katakuri, there's a flash to Rayleigh and Shockey just chilling.
Cool.
And it was really interesting because this makes so much more sense. This is so much more weight after the timepiece theory is applied to it. In this moment, you think that Rayleigh is kind of talking about Katakuri's observation hockey with time seen in the future or whatever, right? Shockey's sitting there, and Shockey says to Rayleigh, and I quote, "You always used to say only those that are living in the present can make a new epoch." Rayleigh says, "Did I say that?"
Did I say that?
And Shockey says, "Don't play dumb." And Rayleigh says, there's a flash to Roger asking Rayleigh to join his crew. And then Rayleigh says, "Rise above it, Luffy."
Why is it specifically talking about
time?
Time.
And you could do it to the observation hockey, but when you attribute it to the time travel theory, where Shockey says he always used to say that. Hey, you always used to say.
Almost as if like they went to Laugh Tale.
Only those that are living in the present can make a new epoch.
They went to Laugh Tale, saw what it was,
and not only that,
happened, and was like, "Oh, we have our role." Like,
and not only that, but shortly after, Katakuri says to Luffy, "Are you going to come back and defeat Big Mom one day?" And he says, "Of course I am. I'm going to be the Pirate King." And he says, "You are seeing quite far into the future." It's just it's so poetic if it's a time travel theory if Luffy goes back.
I love it. I hated it before, but I love it.
It's so good. All right. This is one of the biggest pieces of evidence to me. I saved this for last because this is one of the biggest pieces of evidence. Let's talk about the One Piece logo.
Oh, this is a good one.
So, I recently found this out. I didn't know about this for a while, but Oda said in an SBS that there's a hint to what the One Piece is in the One Piece logo. And very quickly, the community at large figured out that the One Piece logo is a map of the Grand Line.
For sure.
It is...
We might be diving a little deep, guys, but, you can find this out there. Just look at it.
Just look at the logo. So... the skull and crossbones are Reverse Mountain. And then you got the islands, and then you got the red line, which is Luffy, or the eye and
the
piece.
The calm belt is like the
and then the calm belt are the two lines. It's literally the map of One Piece. And that's not a stretch. It's not like we're reaching here. We hate reaches, and even we reach sometimes for fun. We are not reaching here. The logo is a map of the One Piece world. There's no way around it.
But it's just a map. Perfectly. Where's the hint, though?
So here's the thing. People left it at that. People just left it as... oh, it's the calm belt, Reverse Mountain. The islands are all the blue letters, and then the red letter, aka Luffy, is the red line. But no one ever said anything about the rope.
Oh my god!
That goes from the E
from back the end
to the beginning. And what do we find in the beginning? It's in the mouth of the Straw Hat logo, which is literally Luffy's skeleton. It's literally Luffy's skull with the straw hat on. So if there's a hint to the One Piece that it's a time travel, that it is One Piece.
It would be a Richie Boy if it wasn't for the fact that Oda said there is a hint. Not the map. The map isn't a hint. We know what the fucking map is. We can look at the logo and be like, oh, I figured it out. That's the map. But there is a hint to what the One Piece is.
And there is a rope wrapping back to the beginning. And no one talks about it.
God, I hope this is
no one talks about it.
Real, man. This would be so sick.
And when you get back to the end of the rope, it's Luffy dying. Luffy will travel to the past, become Joy Boy, die. The Celestial Dragons in the world government will take the giant straw hat to try and recreate the fruit and freeze it.
We got you the evidence. What we think is concrete evidence.
And really solid evidence.
You know, it's some solid stuff.
But let's just go into stuff that we can't prove. We don't have any evidence to back up, but it would be cool.
Sure.
But
it would be really
sick.
Cool. We might not be able to prove it, but you can't
It would be cool if it happened.
You can't really disprove it, I'm just saying. But what are some other things that would be like, man, this would make this entire loop way better?
Well, let's start off with
we got the whole meta aspect of like being able to like repeat the story over and over.
So let's assume all Straw Hats come back with Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the really cool things that I like a lot is Brook writing Bink Sake.
Brook writing Bink Sake, that probably makes the most fucking sense.
And
I mean, it literally has Yo Ho Ho in it. That's like his catchphrase.
Yes, it's his laugh.
Like,
and also we're not gonna go into it too much here, but look up the lyrics to Bink Sake.
Yeah,
it talks about time and day and sunlight and all that stuff
for sure.
So I think it would be really interesting if Brook traveled back in time, only to realize that he's the person who wrote Bink Sake.
Well, I mean, you can take that even further in so many ways. Like, okay, like one of the simpler ones, I guess, would be like, oh, Robin was the one who wrote the poneglyphs, and like. Mm-hmm. You can get into, like, who is the narrator and how do they know, like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they probably read the story. They probably been to Laugh Tale, right? We knew that, like, Frankie learned a lot from studying Vegapunk's technology.
And then we learned.
So we thought that Vegapunk was just, like, a super fucking genius,
dude, right?
Which he is.
Yes.
But then we learned that Vegapunk
got all his technology from the Void Century.
Ancient Kingdom, Void Century. And then it's just like...
And if Frankie time traveled back... He could have been the inventor of all those things.
He could have made the technology in the Ancient Kingdom Void Century. And it's not just the thing where it's like, oh, Frankie's just insanely super smart for some reason. It like makes more sense being like, oh, the super smart guy. Like, yeah, it's just Oda loves
Wouldn't it be
parallels.
so crazy? Wouldn't it be just so crazy to be like, yo, when Frankie was learning from Vegapunk, he was actually learning from himself.
Yeah,
just 800 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
who was also learning from Vegapunk.
Yeah,
it's like Oda loves
so
these
crazy.
parallels. Like Oda
weird,
loves doing shit like this. You know what I mean?
Okay, just a little one here. I think it would be really great. Zoro is the founder of Wano. Wouldn't it be very interesting?
Yo, honestly, I would appreciate that so much. Like,
because the techniques that he's learning from the swordsman, that is very hinted at, that came from Wano.
I mean, there's so much fucking.
He wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world. Wouldn't the greatest swordsman create all the sword techniques?
The sword techniques, the swords themselves. There are so many things that we're linking. There's so many things that we're linking Zoro to Wano, and we
didn't get
got
any of
just the tip of the iceberg.
Like
we were right there, and then we got nothing.
Yeah.
How fucking cool would it be if it was like, oh yeah, it's not that it was your like descendant or your ancestor. Mm-hmm. It was literally you.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, we got one more just because it's fun. This is one of my favorite names in One Piece, and that's Jinbei, First Son of the Sea.
First Son of the Sea.
First Son of the Sea, one of the hardest names. But what if Jinbei traveled back in time, and when they created the Red Line and they created all this stuff, Jinbei was one of the first fishmen. And it's like he is literally, not metaphorically, literally the first son of the sea. Jinbei. That just feels good.
But my whole thing is like, I just thought of a theory before we started this. There's your quote that Roger has about like, I will see these texts to the end of the world on the poneglyph, right?
Yep. So Joel's theory is that
everything gets fucked.
One of the reasons that Luffy has to time travel is the world that they're living in the final war just gets completely destroyed.
And you can attribute this to being like, oh, well, like, everything's too deep, which is, like, definitely a parallel to, like, certain government systems in our world.
Yeah.
But it's like...
The Poneglyph that they found on Skypiea.
Yeah.
Roger left a note, said, I will lead these texts to the end of the world. What if it's literally the end of the world? What if
everything that happens is... I mean, we see Emu out here destroying fucking full islands. What if everything is just so fucked that, like, the only option is to go back? And, like, for me personally... my biggest reason that I was not on board with this theory at first with Brad is that I was like, it's not freedom. Like, Luffy would need a real reason to fucking do that. He wouldn't just say, I have to travel back in time.
Yeah, there would be no more adventure.
Yeah, it's like, it's all fate, this is fuck, this isn't freedom, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But, like, if there was literally no other choice, and the Ancient Kingdom with all its technology and all of its power and just being...
And like undiscovered, there's 100 years of history... that no one knows anything about.
I'm like, would go back in a heartbeat. What if they literally just actually made a utopia, which is what Big Mom is trying to accomplish, which is what the Ancient Kingdom was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. What if they literally just made a utopia with everything and everything that the world has to offer, but they had to go back in time and do it?
Absolutely.
I think that would be pretty interesting. That's not a super fleshed out theory, not as much as this one, but it'd be cool. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like, if we're talking about Roger Pirates and people who were basically posted up as checkpoints
and guides,
right? Like
talking about Roger Pirate guides,
tour guides, tour guides to the fucking One Piece.
We have to talk about.
I mean, even though Shanks wasn't actually there because he was hanging back with Buggy, we do know that Gold Roger told him something before he went to go get captured or all that stuff.
And we all know that Shanks robbed the Navy ships for the Gomu
for sure.
Me, aka the
There's a huge discourse whether or not he knew if it was that fruit or not.
Yeah.
And
also whether he was going to the island to give it to Ace.
A lot of people think that he was going to give it to Ace.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that, like, we're talking about Joy Boy, so Luffy's name probably wouldn't be literally mentioned. Yep. But it's just like, it's probably someone on this island. And Roger thought it would be his son who would be the king of the pirates.
Yeah.
Or bring the dawn or whatever.
Maybe in some way Shanks is a guide. We don't know for sure.
Yeah. I think he had some ideas. Yeah. I think he took the Gomu Gomu no Mi for a reason.
I think he knew the direction. That something had it to go. He didn't know the exact details of everything, but he knew that he had to steal.
I think he was genuinely surprised when Luffy ate the fruit. But once he kind of understood what was happening, he was like, here you go.
Take the straw hat. Yeah.
And now, which would be so poetic because it's like, it was Rogers. So everyone else, like Crocus and Rayleigh,
would see it.
They would see the straw hat and just be like,
that might be it.
This might be the guy. This is who Shanks says is probably the guy. All right. And so, honestly, it's a crack theory. People have already talked about this.
Yeah. It is a crack theory.
I want to say that this is the theory that made us make this channel. I remember Bradley talking about it as soon as the Gear 5th shit happened.
Yep.
And I was just like, yo, you're out of here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then other people started saying things. Again, O'Hara, other people online started saying, oh, yeah, but no one was really taking it seriously.
No one was taking it serious.
I'm saying, guys.
Yeah.
Take it seriously. And, like,
I think it's at the very least viable. I think it's at the very least viable.
If you have legitimate evidence that disproves this theory, please leave it in the comments.
Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. Let us know if anything disproves this theory. Let us know if there's anything else to help this theory that we missed. Because I feel like when you rewatch or reread the manga with the perspective of knowing it's already time travel, you'll pick up a lot of stuff.
For sure.
You pick up a lot more stuff. This idea was the reason we started this channel. There's going to be a lot more content on this channel. This is episode 1. We are super excited to actually be doing this.
I just want to say, Brad thought of this theory first. We were really lazy for a very long time. You don't have to keep this in the video, but I just want to say,
we've had this time travel theory for a while.
You guys gotta start taking it seriously. This is the most Otis shit. Just the fact that it's so meta, and just the fact that it, like,
the meta is what really
just the fact that it is a cool way to have the story be, like, continuous.
Yeah.
But
also, time travel stories usually get a little murky. People really hate
time
them.
Travel stories.
But if anyone can do it,
I like dark, and that's pretty much it.
If anyone could pull it off,
it'd be Oda, bro.
Chiro Oda.
It'd be Oda, bro.
This has been No Break next week. Thanks for watching. Hope to join us again. Make sure to drop a comment and subscribe.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.